Welcome to FPL Selection. Today we'll review the 10 matches from Game Week 1 and see which players caught the eye from a fantasy perspective. Hit like if you enjoy the video and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks. So first up was Liverpool 4, Bournemouth 2. It was a very open game. It was quite an exciting game for the first of the season. Thought Liverpool were sort of very threatening when they did put together some good passages of play. But Bournemouth were equally very good on the counter. And certainly both of their goals were very direct. I think it was about 5 or 6 seconds from winning the ball back in their own half to getting straight to the Liverpool box. And yeah, certainly the Liverpool defence looked a little unsteady. It's probably, two new fullbacks settling in. So I think they'd be a wait and watch for me from a fantasy perspective. And similar story with Bournemouth. They've obviously got several new defenders there to settle in. So yeah, I think both are in a void at the moment, just until we see sort of how things develop. Obviously, Semenyo got his 2 goals. He's the perfect player for a counter-attacking team. He also had another great chance early in the game that he was, I think Carragher said on commentary that he should have scored, but it was quite a tricky one that was bouncing when it came in. But again, sort of showing he gets in the right positions as well as, being very good on the counter. And I thought Ekitike looked great again after his performance in the Community Shield. Just very sharp, just lots of give and goes. He would sort of drop off and then make runs in behind. Took his goal really well, got a little bit of luck to get through, but nice finish. And he got the nice easy assist for Gakpo's goal, but it was a good run that he made in behind, held the ball well, laid it off. So yeah, he's looking like a really good signing for Liverpool, and I think he's one that sort of people didn't pay attention to as much because of the sort of Vert signing and potential of Isak coming in. So yeah, it looks really good, and he's definitely on my watch list now, going forwards. Salah was fairly quiet. But sort of showed, towards the end, just his great fitness levels, and he was determined to score. You could see the way he chased that long ball at the end of the game. I think the Bournemouth players just, they'd sort of given up a little bit and just thought nothing was going to happen. But Salah forced that, got his goal. And yeah, just always a great captaincy choice, I think, because you can see from that, and even right at the end of a game, he wants those goals. Then Van Dijk hit the DEFCON points very early in the second half. I think, he looked like he was going to be someone that was going to score high on the DEFCON, looking at his stats from last season. So if Liverpool can get their defence sorted, pick up the clean sheets as well, I think he could potentially be close to essential later on. After the first sort of 6 to 10 weeks, they can pick up the clean sheets. He's got the floor of 4 points per match. That'd be a no-brainer in that situation. And the second game was Villa 0, Newcastle 0. It was quite a cagey game, really. Newcastle definitely looked the better side, and they created the best of the few chances there were in the game. Elanga certainly had a great chance, like really early in the match. He got put clean through, but I mean, I'm not a big fan of Elanga. I think he's a nice weapon to have with his pace, but he definitely showed a lack of composure there with the finish. I think it was very close to the keeper. I mean, it was a good save, but I think when you're clean through like that, you should be hitting the bottom corner really. But he did play a great pass through for Gordon that led to the Konsa red. So yeah, that was definitely his contribution to the game there. Newcastle's front three certainly looked very threatening with the pace, and they all had a chance each in the game. Gordon got, I think, 7 shots off in the game, so he certainly looked very lively. Villa, on the other hand, they were very sloppy in the first half. They just kept giving the ball away. Couldn't really build anything meaningful. The second half, they had a few pot shots on target, but there was nothing really too threatening. Then obviously the red card came, and it was just kind of an 11v10 without any sort of meaningful chances for Newcastle, really. I think Villa's second goalkeeper looked decent. But, otherwise, I think the Newcastle defence, you look at that midfield 3 in front of them, and they could be a really good defence again if, they get their signings in through the door, have a nice squad for the Champions League as well. Might be ones to look at, in a couple of weeks' time, because I think, any team in the league would like to have that midfield 3, really. So, very solid. So, yeah, I think that's, a team I'm going to be keeping an eye on anyway for defence. Then Brighton 1, Fulham 1. It was quite an even game. I think Brighton sort of had the better chances overall, but it wasn't like they really dominated Fulham. Fulham certainly had periods where they played some nice stuff, but just didn't really create too much. Minter had a goal disallowed fairly early in the game. It was a nice finish, but the ball did go out of play from the cross. He also had a great chance that he hit over the bar. And then Jorginho won the penalty that O'Reilly scored. O'Reilly also took corners. And then Matoma had a couple of chances in the game as well. There was a header in the first half, and he got put through sort of later in the game that sort of led to Minter's chance after he didn't really get a shot away. So it's a bit of a lottery on their attack. I think they're all good players in their own right, but there's not really sort of one talisman that was clear and obvious. So I think it's a wait and watch on them, definitely, and just see which one emerges. I think if O'Reilly does stay, because there's rumours that he might be going to Juventus, could be a really nice pick. If he's starting a lot of the games at number 10, as the corners and the penalties. So yeah, one to watch there. In terms of Fulham, King, 4.5 million mid, he played in the number 10, and yeah, looked like a really good player. He's certainly very busy and was quite creative. He was trying his best to move things forward and got into a couple of really nice situations in the box. We put in a couple of crosses and yeah, just looked very lively at 4.5 million. Could be a really nice squad player if he's going to get the minutes, which is obviously a little bit up in the air at the moment, especially with the transfer window still open because Fulham haven't really done any business yet. And also Rodrigo Muniz got the goal, took really nice finish. Obviously a lot of talk about him going to Italy, but if he does end up staying, he probably will be the number one striker there, I would imagine. So yeah, he could be a nice one to keep an eye on. And both defenses probably wait and see. I think neither have got like incredible fixtures or anything. So yeah, I think just keep an eye and see how they develop. And Spurs 3, Burnley 0. It was comfortable in the end for Spurs after a few sort of scares, a few chances for Burnley. But yeah, in the end, it was a fairly comfortable win. Richarlison, 2 really well taken goals, both assists from Kudus. I just wonder if we're going to see something similar to Brentford with, Kudus becoming Franks and Mbumo, and whoever plays at centre forward, whether it's Richarlison or Solanke, is going to end up being the number 9 that Frank likes to, feed with most of the chances, whether that was Ivan Toney or Visser at Brentford. So I think I'm definitely got both of those guys on the watch list. I mean, you'd imagine Solanke will be number 1 choice when he's fully fit, but we've seen, Richarlison has the quality. When he does keep himself fit and he gets a run of games, he is a top quality striker. So yeah, I've definitely got both of them on the watch list at the moment, but I'd imagine it'll be Solanke eventually that will become the number 1 there. Johnson was very quiet, but again, once he got his chance, he took it. He just always seems to get attacking returns, even when he's not playing that well. He's not involved in the game. He'll always pop up and get that goal. So I think he's a little bit expensive this year, but if he gets a nice run of returns again, he might be an option in a few weeks' time. And then the only note from Burnley really of interest was seeing Dubravka started, so he could be the ideal 4 million bench keeper for the season. And Sunderland 3, West Ham 0. So Sunderland were, very high energy. You could see they were well up for it with the first game of Premier League season at home. They seemed to just want it a little bit more. I think it was 3-0 was a little bit flattering, I think, on the way the game went. It was only a 0.7 to 0.6 on the XG count. And then when you look at the goals, it was 2 goals from crosses. I mean, they were, good headers, well taken, but the other goal was just a counter-attack at the end. West Ham were piling forward. So I think 3-0 looks a bit more dominant than it actually was. So I don't think either side, truly really impressed in any way, or, West Ham weren't absolutely dreadful. Just, obviously a poor performance. I think Diarra looked like a really good player. He was very quick, good energy. That midfield 3 with Xhaka and Siddiqui, that might be a tough midfield to play against this season, I think. I think they've recruited quite well there, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see, when they come up against some, better teams that, they could give some teams a really good game with that three in there. Looked very good. West Ham did have one nice move in the first half. Strung some quick passes together. Saw Diouf come up from left wing back, hit a shot cleared off the line. He was very high in attacking, so one to keep an eye on there, I think, because yeah, he was pretty much a winger in that game. I'd say avoid both teams for now in terms of fantasy assets until we sort of see a settled Sunderland team. They might end up buying a few more players before the transfer window shuts. And West Ham might have just had a bad day with a bit of bad luck on a couple of the goals. So yeah, we'll see if they can turn things around. Wolves 0, City 4. It was a comfortable win for City. Once the first goal went in, Wolves had their moments, but as soon as they went behind, they just sort of didn't really put up much after that, and City's quality just shone through. Really, I think Reinders was absolutely brilliant. Just really good debut Premier League game. Took his goal so well, got put through, and then first time on his left foot on the run. A brilliant finish. He looks really athletic, and he was making a lot of runs sort of beyond the ball. I think that's something City have sort of missed for a few years, really. They're always sort of looking to play defeat, and they always slow it down and cut back, and the wingers don't always look to run in behind. It's only sort of Haaland that offers him that, but yeah, he was really keen to push forward and get beyond the ball, and I say for his goal, you can see the pace and power he's got there. He's got the eye for a pass as well, so he could be an absolute steal at 5.5 million. And yeah, I feel quite fortunate that I got him in for game week 1, because I think after watching that game, I would probably definitely bring him in if I had if I had a position that I could bring him in. I think I'd have already made the transfer probably. And then the other one to watch would be Ait Nouri. He basically played as like a left centre back. Lewis was getting further forward from right back, so he just sort of sat in as part of a back three. But he got the DEFCON points, obviously playing deeper there. He was making more tackles and recoveries, and he also got a bonus point. So I think he could be absolute gold if he gets a run in this team, because if he can get those 9 points, playing as a left centre back, he's obviously always very good for attacking returns when he plays further up as a left back, getting further forward. So he might be one to, look at getting in fairly soon if he does sort of nail down a place. But I think that's always the question with City, is nailing down a place, especially when you see the likes of Shirky coming off the bench, scored a really nice goal, really nice player. But yeah, you just wonder how many starts in a row he'll get, and yeah, whether you'll actually have him in your team when he gets the points. So, but yeah, City looked very good. So yeah, I'll keep an eye on their assets definitely. And Chelsea 0, Palace 0. Draw was probably a fair result, although I think the disallowed free kick for Eze was a little bit harsh. I certainly wasn't aware of that rule that you have to stay 1 metre away from the defensive wall. But yeah, I mean, if it's the rules, then fair enough. But yeah, it seemed a little bit harsh. But again, Palace kept showing, they're a well set up defence. They've had so many games now against these big sides and made it so difficult. Chelsea barely had any chances. They had a couple towards the end of the game. They wasted, but it was fairly comfortable really. Palace didn't really get put an end, sustained pressure. Esteval, he came on, looked lively again, and probably he was the most effective Chelsea attacker. He was, actually running at his man and, putting a good cross at one point that was just a little bit behind. I think it was Pedro coming in, and he probably had the best chance of the game actually. Right, but he just got his feet a little muddled up. But he's a really top player in the making there. So I don't think it's going to take him long to get in that team, because yeah, if you've seen anything of what he did at Palmeiras, just his level goes up and up, all the time. And a young lad, he's only going to get physically, he's going to develop and get stronger and faster. So yeah, I don't think it's going to take long before he's becoming a starter really in that Chelsea side. On the contrast, Palmer was very quiet. I think it was more testament to Palace really in the way they defended. So I won't judge him too early after the first game, but yeah, when you're 10.5 million in this game, it's you want to see something, at least a little bit of possibility of assists or goals. So yeah, definitely got to keep a close eye on the Chelsea matches, I think, to see if Palmer's going to be worth keeping on my wildcard 3, which is what I'm most likely doing. But yeah, not much to see here for this one. And then just a note on the Palace defence, Lacroix hit 16 on the DEFCON points. So, that's obviously a really high number there. So he hit the 10 very easily. He was very good on that metric last season. So he might be worth the saving over Munoz. He's at 5 million. So it's going to be one to keep an eye on, I think, because if he can hit that, 4 points most weeks, then yeah, Munoz would have to hit quite a few attack and returns to keep up with that pace. And Palace are good for clean sheets. I think I heard something that they were the third best for clean sheets since Glasner came in as manager, which was incredible stat. It sort of blew my mind a little bit. I knew they'd been good, but I think when did he come in? So it's his third season now, is it potentially? So that's a a good long period of time that to keep that number of clean sheets. That's good going. So I think one Palace defender, whether it's Munoz or whether you have to drop to a Lacroix, it's going to be worth looking at for a long-term pick, I think. And Forest 3, Brentford 1. Forest, really had the game won comfortably by the time half-time rolled round. Again, Chris Wood, still the main man for Forest, 2 well-taken goals. Their team is designed to feed the centre forward, so he's always going to get his 1 or 2 chances a game. And the way he's been playing for the last sort of 18 months, he usually takes them. He's very clinical. Still don't rate him as a player overall. He's just very effective. When you just give him the task of, finish the chances, be in the right place, and he's done it again here. And yeah, I'm surprised he wasn't in more teams, to be honest, at the start of the season. Obviously, a lot more expensive now, but if Forest can put together a decent run again, he's going to be the one to get the points. I think Anderson's a nice pick as well at 5.5. He was 1 away from hitting the DEFCON threshold. He got the assist for Wood's second goal. Really nice pass. Basically an interception and a pass in one. It was, really pinpoint pass as well for Chris Wood. And he got 1 bonus point as well. So I think a lot of people were talking about whether you'd have Anderson or Reinders at 5.5, but potentially you might have both because, they could be really good value at that price. And then from a Brentford point of view, Thiago looks to be on penalties. I think that was, quite likely anyway, but could be one to look at. We've obviously got to see how Brentford, it's a pretty comfortable loss here, so just have to see how they play for a few more games before probably getting any of their players in. The other one was Vandenberg, hit the DEFCON marker for Brentford. I didn't mention him in a video last week. He's only 4.5 compared to 5 for Collins. But again, we just got to see how Brentford look, give them a few more games to see how they cope with a new manager. And I think it's more than likely going to go down rather than go up, when you lose someone like Thomas Frank. And United 0, Arsenal 1. It was a fairly uneventful game. Arsenal got in front after a flap from Bayindir. Unfortunately, again, goalkeeper issues for United. And Calafiori obviously got the tap in. But I think after that, most of the better football and the chances were from United. Raya certainly made a couple of great saves that probably won them the game. But United just, for me as a fan, it was just, it was one of the, probably for many years now, the best I've ever felt after losing a game. So it just looked much improved from last year. You could see the clear patterns of play. And Buma and Cunha were picking up nice positions, sort of tucked in as number 10s. And they were able to, players of that ability, they could pick up the ball, control, and they could turn and drive at the defence. And then we'd have the overlaps on both sides. It was Dorgo on the left and Dallo and then Ahmad in the second half on the right. So there was so much space for them in the way that the defenders had to tuck in to deal with Cunha and Mbumo. So there was nice overlaps, and yeah, it was just very promising. Obviously, just missing a centre forward. Mount had a good game as the false 9, but just really crying out for a proper centre forward in there. So hopefully, when Sesko is fit and he can get on the end of things in there, it was a very promising start. The press was very good from United too, very aggressive. Yoro, De Ligt and Shaw looked very solid as back three. And Arsenal didn't really create much. It was quite difficult for them to put much together. But I think, to be fair to them, I think Gyökeres, he looks like he needs a few games to get a bit of sharpness. Saka was kept fairly quiet as well. Sort of Dorgu and Shaw were doubling up on him. Didn't give him much space. I think the only picks I'd be looking at from these two at the moment would be probably the Arsenal defence, either Raya or one of the centre-backs. They're just so well set up defensively, and they made it very difficult for United. We did have chances, but they weren't like clear-cut chances. It was, mostly Cunha's doing, really, just being very determined and being a very good player. So I'd have to wait and see on the attackers, I think, before wanting to bring any of them in too early. And the final game was Leeds 1, Everton 0. Another fairly uneventful game, to be honest. Low on quality. Leeds played some all right stuff, but they sort of struggled when they got closer to the box, when it was the final pass or the shot. You can see, their front three was, not really top Premier League level. It's, sort of bordering on Championship level, really. So I think they'll be looking to add a few before the deadline for transfers closes. Saw the Mecha got the penalty, but Perot was off the pitch. So again, I imagine Perot's the penalty taker. Tanaka looked like a fun all-action player. Hadn't actually seen him play before, but probably not fantasy relevant, but certainly looked like he could step up to Premier League level. Tarkowski was unlucky with the penalty, I think. It was a bit harsh. But he did hit the DEFCON points fairly easily. It was quite early in the game, so I think he's already showing the potential that he could be great to own long-term this season, especially if Everton can get back to the level from last year where they were picking up a lot of clean sheets. If he's got a floor of 4 points every week, then could be very good value at 5.5. Then the only other note for Everton was that Beto started over Barry, but it was fairly anonymous, so it could be any of them starting next week, so definitely avoid both for now. So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. We'll have the team selection on Thursday, most likely, and we'll catch you on the next one.